Welcome to the Bombay Bar podcast. This is a show where we share the rich history of the Bombay Bar Association through our esteemed members, past and present. Today, we have retired Justice B.N. Srikrishna. Setting aside his college ambitions of being a part of India's nuclear journey, Justice Srikrishna ran a very successful legal practice in Bombay and was designated as a senior advocate in 1987. His time as a judge can be defined as duty over self. From answering Chief Justice Mukherjee's call to join the bench in the middle of a crisis at the Bombay High Court, to heading commissions and committees that dealt with complicated legal questions with delicate socio-political outcomes, let us understand the drive it takes to address these challenges head-on with Justice B.N. Srikrishna. So you were born in Bangalore. Now, of course, Bengaluru. When did your family move to Mumbai and how old were you?
My father came to Bombay sometime in 1928 or 29. He came to Bombay like a pioneer, thinking that knowing nobody, having no friends, no godfather, with only, they say, heart within and God above, and one silver 1 rupee coin with George King's face on that, hoping that he'll manage to carry on. Initially, he took up a job with some mill, I think that it was then known as Shapur Ji Brocha Mills. And they gave him some job of some kind of an advisor or something like that. But by then, the industrial and labor legislation came into practice. They right from 1936. The Bombay Industrial Relations Act, followed by 1947, the Industrial Disputes Act. And that was really a pioneering occasion for people to, like your IBC now.
Yeah.
Everybody is an IBC expert. Everybody tomorrow will be an expert on data protection. So similarly, it was a new field, and then he picked it up fast and earned a very good reputation.
And what is it that prompted you to take to the law? Because we've heard that you are very interested in science and...
Yes, frankly, that's true. I had intention to do physics. I took up physics major with mathematics minor in the institute. I had applied for masters in nuclear physics. Those were the days when we were all impressed by the newly set up Atomic Energy Commission and Dr. Bhabha, who was the star on the horizon, Vikram Sarabhai. These are all our heroes in those days. So before that, there was some kind of a discussion at home, and my father suddenly from out of the blue said that you can't be a good lawyer unless you have some super brain or something like that. And these are the challenges that one must always accept. So I said, what? If you can be a good lawyer, I can be a better lawyer. And he retorted by saying, Vaktum sukaram dushkaram adhyavasitum, meaning that it's easy to talk, but difficult to walk the talk. So I said, okay, I'll show you. Next day morning, I went and applied to the law college. And the sequel to that is my professor, Dr. Bhide, who was a very renowned physicist. He waited for me. I didn't turn up, so he called me up saying the deadline is over. Why have you not come and paid the fees? If you have a problem, I'll pay the first term fees. So I told him it's not a question of money. So next day I went to him, explained to him. He was very angry with me. He said, you're a bloody fool. You've got good career in front of you. Why are you taking a chancy career like a lawyer's profession? I said, anyway, I rolled out my dice. I'll stick by it. Then he said, okay, you want to be a good lawyer, it will be a good lawyer.
And after you finished your law, you started practicing with your father. Was it an intimidating experience? Because that time he was the king of...
I tell you, there was an intimidating, because my father did this thing. One day he suddenly turned around and said, hey, I'm tired, I don't want to practice. If you want to continue the practice, you continue the practice. And told the clients and said, it's your choice. My son is going to practice, you want to do it.
Out of the blue.
I didn't have any problem, but then you suddenly get dumped into the sea and said, go ahead and swim. That was the feeling that I had. But I must say the clients were very good. I recall one particular client without whose encouragement I would have not been a lawyer at all. There was this outstation gentleman who used to be dressed in his white dhoti and with a white kurta and white cap. That is some textile mill from Khandesh area. So he had some case, and then I argued it before one of the judges in the Bombay High Court, who was notorious for his short temper and his way of heckling the lawyers. And I think he just didn't allow me to argue. He went on saying, ha, ha, and virtually threw me out. I was so caught up that I started feeling that I'm not cut out to be a lawyer. But this client of mine, he was a peculiar chap. He said something which would probably is contempt of court. He said, "ये दीड़ दमड़ी का जज को कुछ समझा नहीं, सब आप इतना अच्छा बहस करते हैं, उनको कुछ समझा नहीं, अपील कीजिए." So I told him, I said, "You'll have to spend for the appeal. You'll have to take a chance on that." मैंने कोई बात नहीं, say, "I am prepared to go all the way with you. Go ahead and file an appeal." I filed an appeal. And the appeal after, in those days, things used to come up fast, I say. Within a week's time, it came up before the Chief Justice. Luckily for me, the two judges accepted all the points that not even one was rejected by them. And I got a thumping judgment in my favor, totally reversing the single judge's summary rejection. Then I said, okay, there is chance for me. And thereby hangs a tale. So I continued as a lawyer.
And in the 80s was that famous Datta Samant
Datta Samant strike.
So were you involved in any of the major cases?
Yeah, I was appearing for the Mill Owners Association. I was counsel. I was arguing. There was a matter which I argued before a deadly bench in the Bombay High Court. That is Justice Bharucha and Justice S.K. Desai. So initially they were dead against me. But something unheard of. So about 8 days it was argued continuously, can you believe? Out of which probably 6 or 7 days they heard me, and then last 1 day they made short circuit of the whole thing and then held in my favor on all the points. That was, of course, the legal issue. What happened is Datta Samant strike was at its peak. And therefore, on that particular day when we were arguing, a whole bunch of workers who were on strike stormed the High Court. Do you remember that? I don't know.
No, it was before my time.
It was somewhere in 82, I think. So the fellows threw stones and smashed up. Actually, in the High Court compound, there used to be small gamlas with small plants in that. Some kundas with small. They picked them up and threw them in the cars, smashed the glasses of all the vehicles that were parked inside the court compound. Not only that, they went on rampage and smashed the glasses of all the vehicles standing in the university lane.
Oh.
All the lawyers used to... In fact, my car was also parked and my driver was there luckily at that time. So when they went to the driver, stupid fellow, he told them, don't do this. I was not a judge at that time. Mr. Srikrishna's car. I don't know. It must have got 2 gamlas. I assumed they would have set fire to my car. But for some reason, they left it alone.
And did things materially change after you got designated as a senior advocate?
Becoming a senior gives its own advantage. The judges are more receptive and they don't heckle you so much as they would heckle a junior judge. And I must tell you something interesting. S.K. Desai and I had a very big tiff. You practiced before?
Yes, definitely.
Then you know how he would heckle every lawyer who appeared against whom he wanted to make. So he kept on heckling me on something or the other. And then at one time he said, I will not allow you to argue this. I said, why? By that time I was young and I also had come to the end of my temper. So I told him, you are paid by under the Consolidated Fund of India to decide cases. I am paid my client. Argue I shall, decide you shall. Don't say you are not going to hear me. Here you will be. So I don't think in his career he has ever met somebody talking to him like that too in the court of law. So he just shut up, leaned back and said, yes. And then of course he threw me out. That's another matter. But after that I must say, he was extremely nice to me, extremely kind. Never did I have any tip. In fact, I remember in another matter somewhere after 1 or 2 months, there was some matter going on. where I was appearing for the employer, somebody was appearing, Kamirkar or somebody was appearing for the employees. So at that stage, I made a suggestion and said, let's settle this way. So SKJ sir tells him, and the judge tells him, Mister, he's a good lawyer. Accept what he is saying. Settle it out. He shouts at judges, but still he's a good lawyer. I remember that distinctly.
So he took it well.
He took it well. In fact, all the seniors who were around there told me, don't take panga with him. Otherwise, he'll ruin your career as a lawyer. I said, I don't care. And that's the spirit I've maintained till today. Even today, I take panga with everybody. I don't care for the results.
So soon thereafter, 2-3 years later, you became a judge.
Yes, I became a senior counsel in 1987, I think. You're right. In 1990, I became a judge. And my becoming a judge was another curious accident or incident in my life. I still distinctly remember that I had gone to the Supreme Court to argue a matter on a Friday the admissions there. Then on Monday morning, I find a slip from the principal secretary of the Chief Justice saying the Chief wants to meet you urgently. I thought it was some problem with some matter or something, and then I walked into his chamber and said, Chief, I'm sorry you wanted to talk to you, but I was away in Delhi on Friday. He said, please sit down, Srikrishna. Then he said, Srikrishna, we have decided that you should become a judge. I said, what? Me become a judge of all the persons? Why me of all the persons? Then he said, look, there is a crisis in the Bombay High Court. I don't know whether you know that their crisis was there. 7 judges were under cloud.
Right.
So, and the Chief Justice at that time was Chitatosh Mukherjee. He had taken a very bold decision not to assign matters to those 7 judges, and 3 of them ultimately got transferred out of Bombay at that time. Correct. And therefore, virtually the vacancy was 7. And he said, I can't run a court with 7 vacancies. I need to urgently recruit people. Therefore, it's your duty as a lawyer who has come up in this court to help the court maintain its reputation and hold its flag high. I said, okay, Chief, I appreciate what you're saying, but give me a week's time. Let me work out my finances. Because I knew, except the salary was only 8,000 rupees, if I remember rightly. And that was supposed to be great, because the previous generation had only 2,500 take home. And that was the result of some 5th pay commission or something, because as a result of it, they used to get 8,000 rupees. And that meant about how much? 30, by a factor of 1 upon 30, 1 upon 40, my income would go down. So I said, let me talk to my wife. I talked to my wife and she said, I don't know. If you want to accept it, accept it. If you want that kind of life, I'm okay with it. I have no problem. So I came back and said, okay, Chief, I don't know what it's going to be, what the future is going to hold for me. I will accept it.
And how was the experience, the transition from being a lawyer to a judge? I mean, who did you sit with initially and who were your
Even from first
colleagues?
day, I sat with Justice Bharucha. And very first day, this is another thing. I wanted to ask some question to some lawyer who was arguing the matter. So I thought it was done to ask the senior judge to pass. Even now people do it.
Yeah, now people are very deferential. In fact, they don't ask direct questions. Most of the younger...
I don't. I never. From day one, I'm telling you my experience. So I said, Justice Bharucha. He said, call me Sam. Okay, that was the first transition. I said, Sam, I have a doubt on what is being said. I want to ask, can I ask him a question? Of course. Don't forget that you are part of this bench and you have a right to ask questions. He told me this. So I used to ask questions liberally. And another thing is, the very second matter was an excise matter. I had not done much work. Not much work. I didn't done anything in excise because I didn't have time to do anything else. So, and you know, in the Bombay, I don't know what it is now. You heard a matter, called a stenographer, dictated it. That was the standard method. So I said, Sam, I'm not very familiar with it. So I said, okay, you can take 24 hours. You can dictate it tomorrow. So it was heard on one day. Next day I must be ready, and I dictated it then and there. Then I got used to the method of working there in Bombay High Court.
And I think maybe 2 years after your elevation was the famous Srikrishna Commission.
Yeah, correct. In 1990, I became elevated. In 92 December, this thing started. This 6th December 1992 was the Babri Masjid demolition, which gave rise to the riots and all that. And within 1 month, there was a second round of riots, and then the government decided it should have a commission. And Justice Manohar was acting Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice was Justice Mukherjee, who had gone on leave because his son was getting married in Calcutta. So she was requested by the government that he should spare a sitting judge. So very seriously, she sat with the list of judges and went on from top to bottom. Everybody saying, no, 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 no. I was second from the bottom. She said, are you willing to do it? I said, I don't know what this involves. I have absolutely no idea. And I'm just trying to understand the ropes of being a judge. But if you think I should do it, I will do it. But I have a slight difficulty in the matter. She said, what's your difficulty? I said, look, everybody knows that I am a practicing Hindu. And in fact, I'm known as the bar as the Tikawala judge. So I said, do you think this is a riot situation between Hindus and Muslims? The Muslims will have some faith in me. She said, look, when you don your robes and sit in the court, do you consider yourself a Hindu, Muslim, Parsi, Christian? What do you consider yourself? I said, nothing. I started considering myself a judge. I'm answerable to the constitution and the laws, nothing else. She said, that's the same thing that you do. What should be the difficulty? There should be no difficulty at all, and people will appreciate if you follow the same principle. And I did it. I took her advice very seriously, and I worked on that, and I had no problem.
And how demanding is a judge's life on your family?
Demanding in the sense that I'm totally out of the circuit as far as they're concerned. It was not big deal, except that the commission gave them some tensions. Although I must say, I used to have about 30-40 armed constables around my building, despite which there was a theft in my house.
Oh,
and a VCR.
theft in your house?
Yeah. That's a big story. That was all in the newspapers. So, see, I stay on the first floor. Right. And unfortunately, next to that is a garage. So somebody must have got onto the garage, gone to the chacha, come, and in those days I didn't have the security grills. So I jumped into that. And it was a Saturday, if I remember. So I was not there. I had gone out somewhere. My wife had gone out shopping or something. My old mother was there. So she saw that there is this boy who is sitting with the TV in the hot sun in the gallery. So she told him, Bhaiya, idhar kyo baithe ho? Andar baith ke jo. She thought it was some repair. Andar baith ke karo na. So she talked. He jumped and went away. Then she realized that he was a chore. Then she said, chore, who was there? All the policemen came up. And then there was a frantic call to the police commissioner. He came in. But he did not manage to get the TV. He got away the VCR in those days. It used to be a costly item in this. He took away because it was easy to carry it. So that's what happened with 40 fellows sitting. And that was a little bit of tension for my family members.
Most of us know how the life of a judge doing judicial work is. But how is it different when you are heading a commission? But you had no difficulty with governmental support?
No, absolutely not. I say I want this, commission. I want this, and they would give it. Otherwise, I will not want to take no for an answer from anybody. In fact, I'll tell you some of the interesting things that have happened is, when I did the pay commission, suddenly I got a call from the defense minister. I think Mr. Anthony was defense minister at that time. That the government has not included any defense officer in the pay commission. They have a legitimate grievance that their problems are not looked at properly. So they want to come and I would request you to add them. So I told him, look, I cannot add. The notification is issued by the government of India. I cannot add to it. But let me have a look at it. Then he said, they will come and talk to you. So I had Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff, Army, Chief of Army, all three coming to me. And then each one impressing upon me how much more difficult it is for their staff. There was this rule that they would treat they would have one common scale where the civilian and the military man would be there.
Right.
And and legitimately their grievance is, hey, the military man has to undergo so much problems and so much of hardship as compared to this chap who sits in the air-conditioned cabin in the some Mantralaya or Secretariat or wherever and does his job. Therefore, it is unfair. We should get more money. That was their basic thing. And the second thing was that we are not given the respect that we are entitled to. That's another matter. So when they said this, okay, I said, take into consideration. If you can, you address the memorandum to me, I'll deal with it. He said, no, sir, we want to show you what exactly is the hardship that is. I said, how do you expect me to go undergo the hardship? He said, please come with us. We'll take you to Kargil. They flew me to Kargil. Oh. And not only the base camp in Kargil, you remember the Tiger Hill where the Kargil Vijay operation which was there. They took me in helicopter to the top of Kargil, the post, the border post, where the Indian army was there. And in fact, that is, eyeball to eyeball confrontation. It's about half a mile across. On a similar hill, the Pakistanis were sitting there. So they said, then this helicopter dropped me about 200 meters away and said, the weather is uncertain. I'll give you 20 minutes. I'll come back. You'll be ready to come back with me. I said, fine. Then there was so much snow. The snow was almost up to my thighs. I had to walk in that snow up the hill and then enter the border post. And those Jawans were really touched by this, I think. They were very happy. They said, Jai, 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 and all that. And then said, Aapko hum kuch khila nahi sakte hain. They have got only some tea that they make it the tea also in some specialized type of stores under the because of the low pressure area. Then a couple of biscuits they gave me and said, we have to do it there. You see, what they pointed out is that this border post has to be manned by 6 or 7, whatever the number. And only during 6 months is it accessible. Because otherwise it is cut off continually. Therefore, we have to carry dry rations for 6 months. Eat it throughout the year and then come back and then the next batch goes up. He said, this is the type of hardship that we have. And the good thing is, look at this, our people, the politicians don't understand this. These boys started shouting. I said, Arey, what if the Pakistanis start shooting from there? He said, nahi sahab, aise kuch nahi hone wala hai. He said, hamare bade sahab aaye, bade sahab. Udhar se, hello sir, how are you? I don't think the Pakistanis would gladly say hello to anybody. This is the camaraderie they had. And then across, it was, you could shout across. Like from here to another building, you shout, standing on the terrace. And then after 20 minutes, they came down. They brought me back to the base camp. All this was over. 10 days later, the naval staff comes to me. The rear admiral or whatever his rank is. He says, I want to show you how difficult it is to travel in the submarine and be underwater for 6 months. I said, I don't want to be underwater for 6 months. Just take me and show it to me. Yeah. So off Bombay Heights, they took me. Oh,
you actually gone to sea?
Yeah. So that put me under that, just went around and brought me back. It's very cramped inside the submarine. They wanted to show me how this. And they said, this will happen for 3 months at a time. I said, okay, guys, I noted it. Then 1 week later, the Air Force, there is terrific competition. I want to take you on the MIG or whatever, that flight. And then how the gravitational force, they have to suddenly dive like that. I said, thank you very much. I don't want it. I understood it. I will deal with it. So finally, I dealt with it and then gave them some 30-40%. I looked at it in even England, in United States. The army man, during this hardship postings, they get what is known as X-factor wages. So I said, okay, X-factor wages is another 30-40% extra as compared to civilian. And they were very happy. Though that one pension, one rank, one pension, they were asking for it. It could not be resolved at that stage. And I only think it was very recently they sorted it out. That was a very interesting thing. And these are, human problems.
Right.
There is hardly anything legal there that I had to do as a commission. And it's a question of how you intelligently handle it. And just look at the other side and how that person is subjected to some kind of hardship.
So you've been a part of the High Court Collegium. You've been a part of the Supreme Court Collegium. What is your view about the NJAC? Do you still believe that it's the last bastion against executive interference, or because there's a lot of...
The collegium system has its own faults. But unless you come out... don't forget something. Why did the collegiate system come at all? Because of what happened during the emergency.
Right.
There was rank interference with judicial independence. Therefore, as a defense against that, it was started. What is happening today?
Correct.
If they were not there, you would all be swept away. I'm telling you, you would have been swept away. So this is the defense against mechanism against that. That is not foolproof, I grant you. And the NJAC was nonsense. If you give a majority to the executive, then you might as well wind up the judiciary, because if the judiciary, even without doing that, what are they doing that?
Right.
Where are they going appointing people? Take your Bombay High Court. What is happening? The list of advocates has been pending for almost 2 years. Nothing is happening despite the reiteration of that by the collegium. So somewhere along the line, you must take a tough line. Otherwise, you will not be able to survive.
And so what is, can you tell us something about the data protection law provision? Because
Data protection. That is another peculiar thing. The background to all this is very interesting. You know, Aadhaar was being challenged in that Puttaswamy case. So all kinds of arguments are that you must have known all back and forth it was going on. Suddenly some judge asked and said, but what is the law on data protection in this country? So everybody looks around, Attorney General to somebody, all the counsel, and say, there's no answer to that. So in order to tell the Supreme Court, so it was on a Friday, I think. It was on a Thursday, because Friday and Monday are admissions. So on Tuesday morning, when the Supreme Court reopened for final hearing, they got up and told him that we have already set up a committee headed by Honorable Justice Srikrishna. So Supreme Court sort of cooled down. You know, in that judgment, there's one whole paragraph where Supreme Court says, now that the committee has been functioning and under so and so, we hope that the committee's recommendations will be implemented properly. Which they did not. That's another story by it. I told you, I'm singularly unfortunate. All my recommendations are not accepted. So 2019, another thing, I noticed one thing, that you make a report to the government will not put that report in the public domain. They'll come out with some useless amendment to the law or useless rules or something like that. So people start asking me and they say, Arey, why did you recommend such nonsense? So this time I said, I was smart. So I said, no, we make a report, make a draft bill, put both in public domain. So the public will know what have we recommended.
Right.
If the government does not accept it, comes out with something, the public will know, they'll contrast the whole thing. So 2018 was the first bill along with the report. Report is fairly extensive, and I must say, even at the risk of being immodest, the report is a well-considered report. Can I add? Like all other reports. Then the report was made and public domain. It was kept on public domain along with the draft bill. The government got into a loop. They turned into a tizzy because there was so much pull and push from trade business lobby. They couldn't make up their mind. So exactly after 1 year, nothing happened. It kept on going round and round. In 2019, they have come out with their own bill. That bill was so hopeless that everybody, including the trade and business, criticized it. And then they said, let us send it to JPC. They sent it to JPC. JPC said it requires 87 amendments. That was too much for them because by that time they had messed up the whole thing. They had added non-personal data into it and made such a big mess. Then they said quietly, we'll withdraw the bill. Then again it went into a loop. Nobody knows what consultations took place. In our situation, when we started it, the committee had 6 public meetings in all the major places like Bombay, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai and all that. We invited all possible sections of society, academicians, then teachers, lawyers, practitioners, representatives of government, representatives of municipal corporations, representatives of semi-public authorities, public authorities, government officers. We had virtually a debate there. Everybody, then again activists who were opposed to this data being interfered with. We had all of them. We took a call on that. That was well considered. Now, in the 2022, I don't know who were considered. Have you seen it in public domain? No. There were no public hearings as far as I know. Then suddenly one day they said, we are going to put this bill in the public domain. The public domain, it was shown to me. So the newspaper walas, as usual, started asking me questions. I said, this is as different from chalk is from cheese. And in fact, I said something worse. I said, there is a very nice saying in Sanskrit, Vinayakam prakurvano rachayamasa vanaram. So one person who wanted to make Ganpati, and what turned out ultimately was a monkey. So this is exactly what the government has done, according to me. Anyway, that is their privilege.
Sir, to conclude, what advice would you give to young lawyers who've joined the bar? I mean, looking back all these years.
There are 3 C's. The C is your responsibility toward the client, your responsibility toward the court, above all, your responsibility to your own conscience. If you maintain these things, legal profession is thoroughly enjoyable. And as my father used to say, law is a jealous mistress. Now, if you know how to dally with the mistress and also with your wife, you are a very happy man.
Thank you very much.
And all that.
Every challenge can indeed be an opportunity, a principle we can all borrow from Justice B.N. Srikrishna. You just watched an episode of the Bombay Bar Association podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more such videos. We also have an audio podcast which dives a bit deeper and is available on all podcast apps.